It's Andrew Luck versus Peyton Manning in the divisional playoffs for the right to go to the AFC Championship. This is the Real Steel Sports Show, and I am James Krasnerick on Spreaker Web Radio. I hope you've enjoyed my previous 3 segments in which I've talked about the games between the Cowboys, the Packers, the Seahawks, the Panthers, and the Patriots and Ravens. But this game promises to be just as interesting as those other ones, because I said it. It's Andrew Luck, it's Peyton Manning. And how many times do we love to see good quarterback duels in the playoffs? How many times does it make us happy to see 2 quarterbacks just light it up and then play each other in the playoffs? And it's not going to be anything different than what we expect and what we want. So let's get started. The Colts come into this game a solid 11-5. They won their previous game in the playoffs against the Cincinnati Bengals 26-10. Andrew Luck was very solid, 31 of 44 for 376 yards and a touchdown. T.Y. Hilton, 103 yards receiving on 6 catches. And the big one, the Colts ran for 114 yards with a couple of very average running backs. Zulon Tipton and Dan Herron had very solid performances. Dan Herron had 85 yards on 10 catches, leading the team in receptions. So let's talk about how they stack up coming into this game. The Indianapolis Colts are more or less like a watered-down version of the Broncos, high scoring with a decent defense. 6th in the league in points scored this year, 28.6 per game. They've given up 23.1, which is 19th best. They come in tops in passing offense, 22nd in rushing offense, 3rd in total offense. In terms of defense, they're solid 11th, they're solid 12th in passing, and solid 18th in rushing. They are -5 in turnover differential, so they do tend to turn it over a little bit. But the big reason why is also their biggest asset. Quarterback Andrew Luck led the league in 40 touchdown passes this year, threw for 16 interceptions, which is still a high total. Quarterback rating at 96.5, and also completing 380 passes. The running game was average for the Indianapolis Colts, but as of late, it started to get a little bit better, particularly the game against the Bengals, and they did run for 110 on the Houston Texans earlier this month as well. They did have 2 games in November where they ran for over 300 yards combined, Jacksonville and Washington, even though those teams pretty much are defensive doormats. But they have a solid backfield. Zulon Tipton had a good game against the Bengals and will probably get several carries in this game coming up. Ahmad Bradshaw was lost for the season earlier. Dan Herron's had a good year, and Trent Richardson has been average since he entered the NFL, but he's starting to play a little bit better. Now, looking at the receivers, that's where they really are set apart from a lot of other teams. They've got 3 players in their team that have caught at least 50 passes and have had over 700 yards receiving. Tight end Coby Fleener has 774 yards. Reggie Wayne, veteran wide receiver, 36 years old, still doing it, 779 receiving yards. And one of the best young talents in this league, T.Y. Hilton, 1,345 yards on 82 catches with 7 touchdowns. He's been balling this year. As for the defense, they're more or less a bend-don't-break kind of defense. They've registered 40 sacks, another very good total. Jonathan Newsom leading the total of 6.5. Eric Walden with 6 himself. DeQuell Jackson, a pickup from Cleveland, 4 sacks. The secondary's been pretty stout as well. 12 interceptions they've recorded on the year. Mike Adams and Vontae Davis with 5 and 4 respectively. The Colts are a very solid team all around. They're a good comeback team. When they get down, they're gonna make some plays. When they are balanced, they are extremely good. Because if you look at all the games in which they ran for at least 100 yards this year, which including the playoffs was 9 games, they are 8-1. When they don't rush for 100 yards, they are 500. So that 100-yard mark is a huge barrier for them. Passing on the Denver Broncos, their opponent, the number 2 seed in the AFC. Peyton Manning again with a great year, 39 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, throwing for 4,727 yards. The team itself was 2nd in offense, 30 points per game, and giving up 22 points per game, which was 16th overall. They're a solid team on all sides of the football. They're number 3 in yards allowed, 9th against the pass, 2nd in run defense, and 4th in yards per carry. They're very stout. Their defensive line features DeMarcus Ware, who's been a great pickup from Dallas, and Terrence Knighton, who's been a very good player on the inside for them. Also, what you got to remember is in terms of running the ball, they've gotten very good over the last half of the season. Of their last 6 games, they've ran for over 100 yards, 5 of them, and 2 games, the Dolphins and the Chiefs, feature 200 yards rushing from this team. Passing defense has been okay. They've had some tough games against some good passers. Some quarterbacks like Tom Brady and Andrew Luck have had good games against them, as did Kyle Orton for the Buffalo Bills, even though they pulled that game out. Their running game has been anchored by C.J. Anderson from Cal. He has had a very good season this year, averaging 57 yards a game on 11 carries. He has 8 touchdowns. Ronnie Hillman's coming off injury, and so is Monte Ball, and they've been good, but C.J. Anderson has been doing it very well over the long haul. But their receiving core is what sets them apart, just like the Colts. 2 receivers, Emmanuel Sanders, who they picked up from Pittsburgh, and Demaryius Thomas, who's been a very good player for them the last few years, both with over 1,400 yards, both with over 100 receptions. Emmanuel Sanders at 9 touchdowns, Demaryius with 11. The tight end Julius Thomas, another great year, leading the team with 12 touchdown catches. Wes Welker, another solid year, 464 yards receiving on 49 catches. They are a very steady offense. On defense, though, they're underrated, I think. They have 2 pass rushers with at least 10 sacks. Marcus Ware they picked up from Dallas because they had a very good free agency period, and Von Miller, who they happened to draft in 2011. Their secondary has been anchored by 2 great pickups. T.J. Ward from Cleveland, the strong safety with 2 picks and 74 combined tackles, and Aqib Talib, the cornerback from the Patriots, who they swayed in the offseason. 4 interceptions and 63 combined tackles. 48 sacks total, 18 interceptions. Their 18 interceptions is 7th in the National Football League. This is a kind of game where the defense kind of takes a back seat and the offense kind of has to go out and do it for you. You're not going to win these kind of games with defenses. I'm not going to lie. Think about it. Because Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, enough said. It's going to be nice weather at Mile High. 40 degrees is the high. It should be around 35 for the start of the game, which is at 4:40. It's the last game of the divisional weekend. The Colts have actually taken 4 of the previous 5 games against the Broncos. However, only 2 of them have come since Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning have signed on with their current teams. 2013, in October, the Colts defeated the Broncos 39-33 in Indianapolis in one of the best games of Andrew Luck's career, throwing for 3 touchdowns for over 220 yards, and the Colts defense really helped the effort as they got to Peyton Manning 4 times in that game. The other game was earlier this year, the Broncos and the Colts, and neither team was extremely solid at that point of the season. Remember, the Colts started 0-2. And Peyton Manning had a really good game, 3 touchdowns, 269 yards. Julius Thomas with 3 touchdown catches. Andrew Luck barely completed 60% of his passes. Actually completed less than 60, didn't even complete 70% of his passes. He's had a trouble with completion percentage this year. Threw 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and the Denver defense got after Andrew Luck, sacking him 3 times. The thing that separates these 2 quarterbacks, I think, is the amount of pressure they face. Andrew Luck's been sacked 27 times this year, and Peyton Manning's been sacked 17. The sack percentage is huge for these 2 football teams because the way that these 2 quarterbacks play is different. Peyton Manning relies on his offensive line for protection because he's about as mobile as a statue, whereas Andrew Luck scurries around, makes some plays in the pocket, and is really good at finding the guy down the field, and he's also very good at picking up yardage with his legs. Now, the Colts offense and the Broncos defense. Let's put it this way. Denver's defense is designed to get to the quarterback and not to so much defend the pass, because Aqib Talib and T.J. Ward anchor one of the best secondaries in the game. The Broncos' linebacking core is average, but their front 4 is extremely good. They're very good at getting after the quarterback. Von Miller makes up for a less than average linebacking core with his career sack year. And you look at the way that they've played against some really good opponents this year at home, they've played very well. I look at it and I think hang on, pardon me, I lost myself there for a second. I think the Broncos are the better team, and I think that they will win this game because of the fact that they have a better defense, and in terms of the offense, they are definitely superior. And the thing about it is, Peyton Manning over the last 4 games of the regular season threw more picks than touchdowns. I believe he had 6 picks and I think 4 touchdowns. He did not play well. Even with that said, they can still move the football really well. The fact is, in 3 of their last 4 games, they've ran for at least 111 yards, and they had 2 games where they ran for over 200. Miami and Kansas City. Both teams have better defenses than Indianapolis. So I look at this game and I think even if the Colts, they're going to make some plays in the passing game with T.Y. Hilton and Reggie Wayne. That's a given. They're going to get their shots and they're going to take some licks down the field. And Andrew Luck, he's probably not going to complete a whole lot of passes in terms of his percentage, but he's still going to throw a hell of a lot of good balls. If Peyton Manning doesn't play well, the Broncos can still win. If Andrew Luck doesn't play well, the Colts have no chance, and that's the huge difference. Both quarterbacks playing well, this becomes a pick'em. But if one plays better than the other, if Luck plays better than Manning, then there's a good chance they'll win. But if Manning plays considerably better than Luck, then they won't. I think that the pass rush for the Broncos is going to be a little problematic. I think it's going to be tough for them to keep Luck upright in the pocket because you look at those 2 pass rushers, Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, that's just a nightmare to have to block both of them because they're just so quick off the ball and they're just so extremely tough. Overall, though, the way that it's going, I think Denver maybe wins a shootout. I think they'll win a shootout, maybe 38-31. I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch, but I think Denver gets the nod. I hope everybody enjoyed these 4 breakdowns. Please stay tuned because I'll be doing a 4-part show on all 4 divisional playoffs with my good friend Quaman. He has done other sports shows first, and I guarantee you he'll be more than happy to talk some football with me coming up here. So please be sure to stay tuned and have a good one, everybody.